And we will go ahead and get started. Hello again, my name is Danny Shapiro and I'm on the marketing team here at Hawks Learning. Our speaker for today is Dr. Ying Zhen. Dr. Zhen is an associate professor of business and economics at Wesleyan College in Macon, Georgia. She earned a BA in media economics at Communication University of China in 2007, master's in economics from Clark University in 2009, and PhD in economics from Clark University in 2012. Her major fields of specialization are labor economics and industrial organization. Specific research interests include economics of immigration and the music business. It was Dr. Zhen's honor to work with Professor Alan B. Kruger of Princeton University on the survey of well-being of musicians in the United States from December 2017 to June 2018. Dr. Zhen considers economics a universal science, which should be open to everyone. Her ultimate goal is to help students see the world through the eyes of an economist, making them appreciate the beauty of economics and become civilized world citizens. We will have a live Q&A with Dr. Zhen after the presentation, so please enter any questions into the Q&A as we go, and we'll get to them when she is finished. This webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be sent to all attendees once the video is processed and ready for distribution. And on that note, I will go ahead and hand it over to you.
Okay. Good morning, everyone, or good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you are located. This is Ying. I'm a tenured associate professor of economics at Wesleyan College, and thanks to Hawks Learnings for having me, and it's my pleasure to spend about half an hour to communicate with you. Yeah, so although it's a presentation, I think this is a great communication opportunity, so we could share tips with each other and learn from each other. I think this is also one of the goals of Hawks Learning's learning and a growing 2021 webinar series. Okay, so today my topic is building confidence in the economics classroom during the pandemic. Yeah. So as I said, I'm associate professor of business and economics at Wesleyan College. We're the first women's college in the world. We were founded in 1836. So all of our undergraduate programs are only available for women. So during more than 8.5 years of teaching at Wesleyan College, I have observed that many female students, especially those who are new to economics, are intimidated at the beginning of the semester by the numbers and graphs in the economics textbooks. This observation, along with a large fraction of international students in my courses, usually around 25%. Yeah, so our college is also very international. So it makes effective teaching very important part of my job. My experience as an educator and also a learner often makes me think about what is needed to be a qualified economics professor. I believe a qualified economics professor should do well in two respects. So here you can see the slides. On one hand, they should help students build confidence at the very beginning. On the other hand, they should serve as a good guide for students. It's their responsibility to use easy and creative ways to stimulate students' interests, help them better understand the materials, and illustrate how to apply textbook knowledge to real life. It also requires us to adopt the most appropriate teaching methods and strategies for classes at different levels. I believe they are especially important when we are during the pandemic, because most schools have adopted a hybrid mode. So online teaching is an important part. So in addition to using those like online platforms, those online games, right? It's our responsibility to do better in all such regards. And today I would focus on the four things that I always emphasize in my teaching. So first of all, as I said, how to build students' confidence and be encouraging and enthusiastic with our students, and how to prepare our classes to adapt ourselves and also our students to the pandemic situation, and tailoring our teaching to the audience in order to stimulate their interest, along with using different teaching methods. Okay, so I think it's very important for a professor to realize how influential they can be at the very beginning of the semester, especially during the pandemic. We professors should always convey a positive tone to the students, not at the beginning, not only at the beginning, but also throughout the whole class. To build students' confidence in economics, I try to be a very easygoing and approachable professor. In the first class meeting of an undergraduate intro-level economics class, so I'll be starting my split term B in spring, where I would have two large sections of students in my intro-level microeconomics and macroeconomics class, and they are both online. One is real-time teaching, the other is just a typical online class. We have one weekly live chat, but for the rest of the class, students would spend 100% of their time online. Yeah, so at the beginning, especially at the beginning of an especially undergraduate intro level class, I always make a point of saying a few encouraging words. For example, I might say, I hope we will work as a team and have fun in this class by discussing many interesting issues. So emphasize we are a team. Yeah, and although I'm professor, you are my students, we learn from each other. Everyone must have his or her strengths, right? So just being easygoing and create a pleasant atmosphere. This is very, very important at the very beginning of the semester. And also, I would continue to provide encouragement throughout the semester. So, for example, if an exam is around the corner, I would wish them good luck and encourage them to work harder, but also work to create a pleasant atmosphere. For example, I often send my students a group email the night before the exam saying studying hard is good, but at the same time, take it easy, be relaxed. You'll be doing a great job tomorrow. Yeah, because when I was a student, I always appreciated if my professors would send us an encouraging message like that. But unfortunately, I think that happened very rarely. Yeah. Yeah. So our role was very, very important. Especially at the beginning of an undergraduate intro level econ classes. Because I believe that if we try to draw a line between us and students, and I know some of my, my former professors and maybe some other colleagues, they believe that economics is not for everyone, and some should be eliminated from the very beginning. I understand their ways of thinking because this subject is sort of challenging, but at the beginning, right? So you learn about my teaching philosophy. I believe economics is a universal science. It should be open to everyone, especially intro level. Yeah, intro level economics is very, very useful. I don't think anyone should be eliminated from this subject. And I believe that once the students' confidence is destroyed in an intro level economics class, then we will be like killers. Yeah, we are killers because there might be lots of future economists in the world, right? But because of us, we might be too harsh, right? So yeah, so they might give up this subject totally. They may decide not to pursue this subject in the future, or pursue a career that would be using economics. Yeah. So this belief is from my experience as a learner, which shows how misapplied the power of the teacher can destroy a student's confidence. This is my real story. I still remember vividly how, when I was 7 years old, I transferred from a subsidiary primary school, so very like average school, to a very top one in my hometown, which is Chengdu, Sichuan province in China, the hometown of giant pandas. So since my math teacher didn't know how I lagged behind by 2 chapters in my former school, one morning she, in front of a whole class of 45 students, threw my math exercise book to the floor, scolding me. Like, I remember she exclaimed, "Here comes another broken pot," which is a metaphor for stupid students, or for those slow students. So at that moment, I was so scared and heartbroken. From then on, math acts like a monster for me. Even though I was born in a family with so many math professors, math teachers, I even made up my mind back then not to be a math major in college when I was 7. However, there was a commonly held belief at that time that a student's performance on math would determine whether he or she is smart or not. Therefore, in order to be a smart student, I devoted myself to math from then on. So I still worked very hard. I even went to Olympic math competition training school for 10 years. I think since from 8 to 18 years old, and I even won the second prize in the National Olympic math competition when I was 15. But in my heart, I wasn't a fan of math. Even later, right, many years later, I became a professor of economics. So we do use some math, but not too much. Yeah. So I think this balance is pretty good for me. So the point is that the shadow cast by my math teacher in primary school so many years ago is still there. Yeah. So more than 20 years ago. I learned from my personal experience as a learner, and that teachers can permanently affect the way students feel about themselves and also feel about this subject. Yeah, so don't be a killer. So our roles, especially in the intro level classes, are very, very important. Okay, so thanks for listening to my personal story. Okay, so let's continue. So in my first 2 years of teaching at Wesleyan, I remember that preparing classes was my life. So we had pretty heavy course load every year, the 7 courses per year as the benchmark. And sometimes we have overload, and I often have EMBA teaching, which comes as an extra. So especially in my first 2 years of teaching at Wesleyan, preparing classes was my life. My estimated average preparation time for a new 50-minute class was 8 to 10 hours. Also, I'm a foreign professor. English is not my first language, so you could imagine right after getting out of grad school and then I have to teach independently, although I had about 2 years of teaching independent teaching experience at two colleges. One was College of the Holy Cross, the other was Worcester State University. They are both in Worcester, Massachusetts, so they prepared me for independent college teaching very well, but I still spend lots of time during the first 2 years of teaching at Wesleyan. Yeah, so this painstaking process made me grow as a professor. More importantly, it made me very confident when I was standing in front of students and answering their questions. Although I no longer have as many new preps, I still spend a significant amount of time preparing for my courses. So at Wesleyan, I think I have been teaching probably 9 different courses already during my past 8.5 years. Yeah. And in addition, I enthusiastically attend economics teaching workshops to further polish my teaching skill. Although it would be very easy to recycle my old courses, I feel it's my responsibility to present students the updated materials in order to keep up with the times and advance with my students side by side. Like now I'll start my split term B teaching. So both classes, right, intro level, micro, macro, I've been teaching them since January 2011. I think I have taught them for maybe around 70 times, yeah. But instead of recycling them and just teach as a recorder, I chose to spend 7 weeks recently on the certificate program, which is called the post-crisis hospitality industry management, which was held by University of South Florida Business School, because I think those materials would be very helpful for my managerial economics teaching in EMBA program, and also micro economics teaching, also macro as well. Yeah, they're always connected, especially at the intro level. Yeah, so this certificate program is very, very helpful, especially it provided me with lots of new information post-crisis. So it focuses on COVID. Yeah, so although we are still during the pandemic, it will be over eventually. Now the situation is getting better worldwide. Yeah, so how would those specific industries deal with COVID, deal with the pandemic? So very, very helpful for my teaching. And in this way, I could update my materials and make my classes more interesting. Yeah. So I believe that one can really have full confidence and enjoy the process of teaching with your full effort for at least 10 times. Yes, after you work very hard in your teaching, and after you've taught the same course for 10 times, and then you might be able to get rid of your books and lecture notes, and then you could really enjoy teaching. Yeah, so this would be a great moment, a great process, and I'm sure your students could feel it. However, building students' confidence in economics is only the first step. As economics is application oriented, it seems to be an art to use easy and creative ways to stimulate students' interests, help them better understand the materials, and illustrate how to apply textbook knowledge to real life. So this is especially important during the pandemic. Yeah, a lot of things have been changed. So what can we do to optimize using our scarce resources? Yeah, so this is what economics does. Yeah, and I believe that how to use the easiest and the most creative ways to teach, to stimulate students' interests. This would be very, very necessary. Yeah, because some people may think, okay, using jargons might make students like, you know, in intimidated, and thus they would study harder, and they might respect more towards this subject. But I have a different opinion in this regard. I think we instructors, right, our fundamental role is to make things easier, especially how to use the easiest words to explain materials to students, to outsiders. This should be the essence of teaching, instead of using complicated jargons, or intentionally to make the materials just more challenging in order to draw a line between students and us. Yeah, so I'm the opposite. Okay, so during my more than 8 years of teaching at Wesleyan, I have taught perhaps 6 completely different groups of students. Traditional undergraduates, our day program, EMBA program, which is the graduate level, non-traditional undergraduates, so evening program, and we have a GEICO program for its employees for their promotion, and some would like to earn a degree from us. And we have a dual degree program, a partnered program with Guangzhou University in China. Yeah, especially several years ago, they were quite big. And also the online hybrid program. So all of these diverse groups of students would require up-to-date teaching techniques, and also it's our responsibility to tailor our teaching to them in order to stimulate their interests, in order to make their study easier. Stimulating their interest is key to teaching students from very diverse backgrounds, I believe. To do this, I usually start my lecture with a real life example, and then I present theories behind it. So this will make students feel, okay, theories are not intimidating. They are easy to understand. They are there to help answer questions. So this is the purpose of building theories. To further stimulate students' interests in the topics, in the intro level classes, I often encourage them to read Wall Street Journal, New York Times, or Business Week on a regular basis, and then present the article in class with their own analysis. And in online classes, I often assign them an online discussion board, news postings, and replies. They must reply at least once each week. So this would encourage interaction among them. While in upper level classes, such as our international trade, econometrics, right, and we have some 200 level general education classes. So in order to push students to reach their full potential, I often assign them journal papers, and then have discussions about them in class. And also they will do the online discussion board posting and replies. And I provide them with a guidance. So what might be great to be included in your discussion. Yeah, I consider it a good way to bring students to the academic rigor of economics. I understand for undergraduates, especially for those sophomores or juniors, yeah, reading economics journal articles might be a little challenging for them because some articles are pretty quantitative. Therefore, yeah, we should guide them, yeah, how to read those journal papers. Not everything, and I also told them, yeah, it's impossible for you to understand everything in a journal article because think about those authors, right? They may spend like 4 to 5 years to get their papers published, so it's not realistic for us to spend like 1 to 2 hours and then understand everything. So for undergraduate students, just focus on getting the main idea and like knowing their basic method, knowing where they collected their data, what's their motivation, what is the research problem they try to solve, and what is the conclusion. And also, I encourage them to be critical. So, what should be done in the future, right? So, don't think they are perfect. Maybe you could come up with better ideas. So I believe these are what are important for undergraduates for journal papers reading. Yeah, and also I comfort my students that I actually spend much more time reading these papers than you in order to grasp the motivation and main ideas. Yeah, just be easygoing because we are all human beings, right? We also have to work hard, and we are on the same boat. We even spend more time on them reading this journal article before teaching, so they will feel more comfortable and hopefully more confident in learning your subject. And at last, yeah, using different teaching methods would be very necessary, especially during the pandemic. Yeah. So here I might focus on using different technologies to teach economics class. So for me, I especially love using humorous video clips to stimulate students' interest in economics. Using funny videos such as one about Kopi Luwak coffee, so which is made from coffee beans that have been partially digested by the Asian palm civet. Yeah, so basically the main ingredient of Kopi Luwak coffee is from the poop of a fox-like animal. Yeah, so I use this video at the beginning of the demand supply chapter because that chapter is very technical. But this funny video would encourage students to think about why Kopi Luwak coffee is the most important, is the most expensive coffee in the world. Sorry, yeah, most expensive coffee in the world. So you may Google it on or you may look it up on Amazon. I think the price is around $600 per pound. So why it is that expensive, right? And also the funny part, this coffee is made is made of the poop from a fox-like animal. So you might encourage students to think about whether this is something on the demand side or on the supply side, and also price, right, will be determined by both sides. This is a very important point in that chapter. So neither demand nor supply would determine the price. So price requires both sides. So why it's the most expensive coffee in the world? So think about that, right? So find out the factors on both sides, and then see if you could explain why it is the most expensive coffee in the world. And it's from Indonesia originally, and not from those like coffee growing areas that we expect Yeah, so using videos would help me to present the textbook materials in a more organized and creative way. And another technology is the use of games. I'm sure there are lots of online platforms, and maybe Hawks Learning has some games for students to play during class, right? So a typical game is called the fishing game, which is helpful for teaching the tragedy of the commons theory. And even the same game can be of different types. So you might use a combination of online and classroom versions. So by having students come to the whiteboard and play the fishing games themselves. So yeah, all types would be helpful. They would help students learn about how pursuing their self-interest can have negative effects on the group's welfare. Yeah, so this is also a very important education, right? So your behavior, your action may exert the side effects to others. Yeah, so during a pandemic, you might think about your behavior, right? Wearing a mask. So it has to do with your self-freedom, but it has a lot to do with public health. So a lot of examples can be related to this externality issue. Yeah. And of course, they would stimulate their enthusiasm and help me to teach in a more creative way. Okay, so again, I have several goals of my teaching of economics. So the first goal is to make students confident about themselves, equip them with basic knowledge in principles of economics, and show them ways that help them explore the field. I think the first goal is very fundamental, especially intro-level economics classes. They are usually under general education category. So this means that, yeah, students should really learn something that that could stay with them in their lifetime, instead of, okay, I have to take such courses in order to get my degree, in order to fulfill the requirements. So those goals are very, very low. Yeah, so everyone needs to learn some economics to become, better citizen of the world. So now globalization is definitely the trend, right? So we're living in a global village. So it's our responsibility to be a better world citizen. Yeah, so this is my first goal. And at the advanced level, maybe my second goal is to develop students' economic journal article reading skills, especially empirical economics journal articles that test the textbook knowledge they have learned. Yeah, because those theories, those models, none is perfect. They have to be tested by real world data. And those econ journals would be great helpers for them in this regard. Yeah, and ultimately my goal is for students to enjoy learning economics and appreciate its beauty. Yeah, so my hope is to bring them to this ultimate level. Yeah, so if you could really enjoy learning, not just economics, but also other subjects as well. So if you work hard and also try your best to enjoy learning, enjoy life, I think this is the essence of economics, right? A subject that helps us to pursue happiness via optimization, and I'm sure this principle could be applied to other subjects and to our lives as well. Yeah, so I hope those tips I share with you today could help you achieve this goal. So thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thank you so much, Dr. Zhen. For the audience, I want to remind you that you can enter your questions into the Q&A box. And now is a good time for those, for us to address those. I had a couple questions as you were going through things that stood out to me that you were mentioning. What sort of feedback do you get from your students as you're emailing them those reminders? Do they often email you back and thank you? Do they mention those to you in class? What's that response?
Yeah, so of course, students really appreciate my group emails. Yeah, so especially when I send them encouraging words. I remember before I started my full-time teaching job, so I was still in my PhD program while teaching as a lecturer at College of the Holy Cross and Worcester State University. So I had to work super hard because that was when I started building my confidence in teaching. Yeah, so I even send group emails to all my students saying, okay, I'll be around my laptop during the 2 hours. So I let them know my time and feel free to email me any questions about their tomorrow's final or tomorrow's exams. So they really appreciated that. Yeah. And now I think I often received students emails saying like at the beginning they were afraid of this subject, especially those non-traditional students. So for example, employees at Geico, they hold a full-time job, and I remember I had a student who has 5 kids, and 4 of them were under 5 years old, and she was working full-time while taking my class. I was totally impressed. Yeah, so she said my class was very helpful, and she was able to understand almost all of the materials because I try to break down things easily, and my materials were easy to follow.
That's wonderful. Another thing you mentioned is playing some games with the students. And Hawks we have some free games available to anyone, whether they use Hawks or not. That's at economics.hawkslearning.com, and we're verified through Quizlet, and students can go on there and play. It's not just flashcards with Quizlet. There's lots of different games that they have for both micro and macroeconomics that they can play with the terms and do matching and some other fun and different ways to study. When you're playing those games in your classroom, back to your experience, how are you doing that virtually? Are you engaging the whole class in a meeting through Zoom, or are you still playing those games online if you're not in the classroom?
Oh, okay. So I don't think I'm still playing those games in my online classes, but before the pandemic, so I adopted some games in my in-person class. Yeah, such as the fishing game. I think I used to adopt some games from. So I don't remember that publisher's name. I think it's the software is called Inquisitive from Norton, I think. Yeah. So that was quite helpful, and also I had students come to the whiteboard to physically play the fishing game.
Great. Well, we can include a link. I'd love to get a link from that and include that in our follow-up email to participants. And I can include the link to Hawks's games as well, just so any attendees can have those as an option to use in their classroom going forward.
Great. And I also remember I used games from Mob Lab before. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Maybe 5 to 6 years ago. Yeah. So it's great to know Hawks Learning also has some games for students.
Well, I think that brings us to the end of our time. So Dr. Zhen, thank you again for being part of the Learning and Growing 2021 series. We really appreciate you being here. And to our audience, we really appreciate you being here as well. If you do have questions for us or for Dr. Zhen, you can contact us at marketing@hawkslearning.com, and we'll make sure to get those over to her and get you a reply. Again, we did record this, and we'll be emailing you a link to view the webinar on demand. And I hope everyone has a great rest of their day.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Okay. Have a good day. Have a good evening.